Good morning, everybody, and we're watching our mid-morning edition of Arirang News on this Thursday, July 2nd, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Shin Se-min. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at this hour. South Korea has urged Japan to have a sincere attitude towards ending the trade dispute between the two neighbors, exactly 1 year after Tokyo unilaterally restricted exports over its dissatisfaction about historic issues. Local transmission within South Korea lingers on, adding to worries of a surge in COVID-19 cases. Schools in the southern city of Gwangju are closed for the rest of the week after the city saw 22 new cases on Wednesday alone. It's another communist-run city, says Washington's top diplomat on Hong Kong, now under Beijing's new security law. He called the law outrageous and an affront to all nations. South Korea's finance chief is urging Japan to show a sincere attitude to resolve the two sides' trade row, marking 1 year since Tokyo imposed trade curbs on Seoul. Speaking at an emergency economic meeting on Thursday morning, Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi highlighted South Korea's efforts to continue trade talks with Japan and re-evaluate South Korea's export-related systems. The minister further highlighted that Seoul has successfully localized parts and materials and diversified its suppliers. The government will soon announce plans to make South Korea an advanced manufacturing cluster by stabilizing material supply chains and launching advanced technology. South Korea's inflation rate remained at 0% in the month of June, despite the government paying out emergency disaster relief funds to encourage spending. According to Statistics Korea on Thursday, the consumer price index for June stood at 104.87, unchanged compared to the same month last year. Now, this ended the negative growth shown in May, but failed to rise above 0%. Statistics Korea says the government's cash handouts pushed agricultural food prices up, but that was canceled out by a fall in global oil prices. The Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol said last week that he expects consumer price inflation to stay near 0% for the time being. And that is the latest on the coronavirus situation here in South Korea. That is showing no sign of dying down anytime soon. The country's sixth largest city of Gwangju in Jeollanam province has confirmed 22 new cases of the virus on Wednesday alone, continuing its double-digit growth. And the city has all raised its social distancing level after a bout of new COVID-19 infections. Our Lee Seung-jae with more.
Quarantine measures are in full swing at a welfare center for the elderly, operated by a religious group in the southwestern city of Gwangju. This is because a woman in her 50s, who is a caregiver, was confirmed to have COVID-19. Additional infections began popping up at the facility, with several more confirmed at the church the caregiver attended last weekend. However, it's not yet known how the initial patient caught the virus. As the number of so-called blind spot infections continues to increase, the city's social distancing level was raised on Wednesday to level 2.
If this persists, we are worried that this will cause serious damage to the safety of our community.
Level 2 social distancing means indoor gatherings of 50 or more people are now banned, as well as 100 or more for outdoor events. Public facilities are closed for the next 2 weeks, while collective restrictions on high-risk facilities have been imposed. Sporting events will continue without fans, while quarantine measures will be strengthened where people in the city tend to gather most. South Korea continues to see COVID-19 cases scattered across different parts of the country, including in Nonsan, a city in Chungcheongbuk-do province. The city reported its 7th infection on Wednesday, raising concerns that the recent spike in cases in Daejeon is spreading to nearby areas. As the country continues to try and contain the virus, city officials hope that tougher social distancing measures can stop the spread in its tracks. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The World Health Organization says 60% of the global COVID-19 infections have been reported in the last month alone, raising concerns about the rate of spread. According to the WHO's Director General on Wednesday, an uptick is expected as nations began to ease restrictions. However, he remained optimistic, saying it's never too late to turn things around. The new number of global COVID-19 cases have been exceeding 160,000 a day, with the U.S. reporting around 45,000 new cases each day. COVID-19 vaccine made by U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer and German biotech firm BioNTech says their COVID-19 vaccine shows potential in early human trials, perhaps adding more breathing room to the COVID-19 vaccine businesses. The drug is one of the 17 being tested on humans in a global race to find a vaccine that has touched over 10.5 million people globally so far. A relatively small trial, though, with 45 people, and it still has yet to be peer-reviewed or published in a journal. But it showed that the drug incited an immune response in healthy patients. But it also came with some side effects, including fever at higher doses. Another leading vaccine candidate from the industry, Moderna, is expected to enter late-stage trial later this month. People here in South Korea are now able to enter some EU member countries, including Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Italy. Starting Wednesday, the Dutch government adopted the European Council's recommendation for its member states to reopen their borders to 14 countries, that of course including South Korea. Switzerland will also lift restrictions on non-essential entries for the list of approved nations starting July 20th. But Italy decided not to adopt the guidelines and will maintain its mandatory 2-week isolation measures for visitors outside the bloc over the coronavirus concerns. The German government lifted entry restrictions for just 8 out of the 14 recommended countries, leaving South Korea off its permitted list. The UN forecasts the global tourism industry stands to lose some $3.25 trillion, equivalent to some 4.2% of world GDP, as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to cripple international travel. The UN Conference on Trade and Development said that in the most optimistic scenario, it would lose around $1.2 trillion. In absolute terms, the agency predicted that the U.S. and China will log the largest shortfalls, followed by countries like Thailand and European nations like France, Germany, Spain, Italy, and the UK. Just one day after China's new security law went into full effect, Hong Kong police got straight down to business, arresting at least 300 protesters overnight. In shock by the scenes, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is denouncing China, saying that the law is an affront to all nations. And he added that the U.S. will treat Hong Kong just like mainland China unless the Communist Party reverses its move. Our Ji-young tells us more.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Wednesday called Hong Kong just another communist-run city as he condemned China's new security law imposed on the territory.
Free Hong Kong was one of the world's most stable, prosperous, and dynamic cities. Now it will be just another communist-run city where its people will be subject to the party elite's whims. It's sad.
At a news briefing, he said the United States is deeply worried about the safety of everyone living in Hong Kong and warned that Washington would continue to implement President Trump's directive to seize the city's special status.
Article 38 of the new law also purports to apply to offenses committed outside of Hong Kong by non-residents of Hong Kong, and this likely includes Americans. This is outrageous and an affront to all nations.
His remarks came after Hong Kong police started making their first arrests for violating the Hong Kong national security law just the day after it came into force in Beijing. As part of the Trump administration's stricter stance against China, Pompeo also warned the U.S. is ready to impose economic and legal sanctions on firms that deal with China's western Xinjiang province.
Today, the United States Department of State, along with Treasury, Commerce, and DHS, are issuing a business advisory to companies with supply chain links to entities complicit in forced labor and other human rights abuses in Xinjiang and throughout China.
The U.S. sanctions are likely to punish senior Chinese officials who abuse human rights by forcibly detaining minority Muslim Uyghurs in Xinjiang province. 엄지영, Arirang News.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in is urging the United States to hold another summit with North Korea before the U.S. presidential election in early November. Officials say this message has also been conveyed to the White House, and reportedly efforts are underway to try and get the ball rolling. Our presidential correspondent Kim Min-ji with more.
President Moon Jae-in has stressed the need for another summit between North Korea and the U.S. before the U.S. presidential election this year, and South Korea will do all it can to make it happen. According to a top Blue House official Wednesday, Moon made the remarks in a summit a day earlier with top representatives of the EU. The president was quoted as saying that the two Koreas cannot go back on the progress and achievements they've made in their relations. Moon added that with patience, he will continue working to keep up momentum for talks between Seoul, Pyongyang, and Washington. This comes when there's mounting speculation of a Seoul visit by U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Stephen Biegun, Washington's point man for Pyongyang. However, the top office declined to confirm his visit. Some reports have said that if Biegun does come, he could deliver a message to the North from President Donald Trump. Whether a summit is possible or not, on Tuesday, U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien called on North Korea to refrain from provocations and return to dialogue. He said that Washington wants Pyongyang to achieve a bright economic future under leader Kim Jong-un. O'Brien said that tangible progress has been slow, but the door to dialogue remains open. South Korea's top office says it has relayed President Moon's message to the White House, adding that Washington has expressed understanding. A top official here said he believes that efforts are underway, but refused to elaborate. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to win approval from voters that would allow him to run for further terms in the office and potentially stay in power until the year of 2036. Millions of Russians voted nationwide on Wednesday on reforming the constitution. According to early polls from Russia's Central Election Commission, more than 70% of voters approved changing the constitution. The amendments include boosting pensions and a de facto ban on same-sex marriages.
Good morning. Warm summer temperatures return today. Highs will be 3 to 5 degrees higher than yesterday for most parts of the country. So Seoul and Daegu, Gwangju will get up to 29 degrees Celsius with plenty of sunshine and very strong UV rays. But also we cannot rule out the possibility of passing showers of 5 to 40 millimeters in inland regions along with thunder and lightning. So have an umbrella handy. When it does rain, it could pour down. For a closer look, it could rain in the capital region and Gyeongsang-Namdo province this afternoon, while Chungcheongdo and Jeollabuk-do provinces can receive this evening. Then Chuncheon and surrounding regions could see showers tonight. The monsoon rain then will take a break for a few days. Then another monsoonal front returns to southern parts of the country on Sunday, and Seoul will see rain next Tuesday. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that is a wrap for us at this hour on Arirang News, but we'll be back with more of the day's headlines in our later newscast slated for noon Korea time, so stay close. Thanks for watching.